Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to be doing a handover video on this Elddis Autoquest 140. So we're based on the 2007 Peugeot Boxer chassis. Now this is the very last of this shape of cab, basically. So 2007 to 2008 is when they switched over. So this one has got a few little bits and pieces that were on the kind of changeover between cabs. So just pointing that out. So what I'll do is I'll start under the bonnet, I'll work my way all the way around the outside, and then I'll show you through the inside after that. So, engine battery is on our left-hand side here. So this is your starter battery. So if you ever need a jump starting, that's the one you go to. We've then got your brake fluid at the top just here attached to the servo behind it. Your engine oil filling point is this one just here, and engine oil dipstick is the green topped one just down here at the front of the engine. Your power steering fluid is in this little reservoir here at the front. You've got an additional engine oil filling point just here at the front as well. So if you find it much easier to, which you probably will, to top that up from there, then you can do that. You will have a couple of fuses and relays behind this box just here, and the majority of your fuses and relays are under this box here. Your engine coolant is this one up here. You always check that when the engine's cold, and make sure that you never open this up when the engine's hot. That will be a very big mistake, so please don't do that. Your washer fluid filling point is this one just down here to the bottom right hand side, and your air filter sits inside this box up here to the right. So your paint colour on this particular van is Fiat 249, and I say Fiat because Fiat and Peugeot make the exact same cabs. So it's actually a Fiat colour. If you type in Peugeot 249, you may find the wrong colour. So Fiat 249 is the correct touch-up colour for the entire cab. And to be honest, the majority of the rest of the van will be 249 as well. So your diesel filling point is this one just here. So to get this open, push on the left-hand side and it will just swivel out. You will need your ignition key to get this open. Simple as that, really. Nothing more to it. Inside the passenger door, there's not normally much to show you, which in this case there isn't anything to show you. So I will leave that for now. Right, so got a little latch at the top just here, which stops the door from just flying open in the wind. And we've also got the fly screen that comes across the door as well. So that, when you're on the inside, when you can actually see it, you can line that up, there you go, and pull this across. So you've got a full fly screen that you can have completely across the door so that you get loads of air coming through, but you don't get all the horrible flies and stuff coming in. Okay, so that is there like that. Your step is a manual step, so to get it to go back in, you can literally use your foot. Just be careful not to let it go too quickly, but lift up on the front and it will then just drop its way back. Opposite way around to pull it out, so pull down and towards you, and it will fold straight over, and that is your entry step. You've also got a little switch just here to the right hand side as you sort of come in the door. Now that switch is quite important. That is your 12-volt isolator switch. Typical for Elddis and a lot of British vehicles to do this. 12-volt isolator, so everything 12-volt related, so all of your lights, your water pump, anything at all will be isolated if you have that switch off. So the reason that you would have that off is just in case you wanted to isolate everything and stop the battery from draining out for any reason. So if you're leaving the van for a few weeks, I would recommend that you turn the isolator off. So you've got a full-size Fiamma wind-out awning across the top of the van. You've got an awning light just here, which you can turn on and off from inside the cupboard. We've got these two vents just here. So these two vents are both to do with the fridge. Okay, you can probably see at the moment, maybe not on the video, but you've got a little bit of condensation forming at the top just here, which is because I've got the fridge lit up on the gas. So, reason I point that out to you is so that you can know the way of double checking that the fridge is definitely on. Now there is actually a peephole inside the fridge, so you can physically see it in this case. But if you wanted to double check, you can put your hand over this right hand side of this top vent, and you will feel warm air coming out if the fridge is on gas. Okay, and actually even if the fridge is on the mains, you should still feel a little bit of warm air coming out through that, but it's normally when you've got it on the gas that you'll feel the air coming out nice and hot. By the way, we haven't actually cleaned the van just yet. Don't worry about it being a little bit dirty. It's still due its proper clean. So, right, so we have then got, obviously, windows just here. This is a really nice big window on the side, all in really good condition. Can't fault the windows at all. Unfortunately, with the motorhomes, they are quite an expensive thing to get a hold of. So them being in good condition is a big, big plus. You got a little bit of access to your storage underneath the near side settee just here. And to the right, if I just show you here, if I zoom in a touch, we have got your boiler drain off point. So the little yellow tab that you can see just there is the boiler drain off point, and basically it's quite a simple little thing. If you want to drain the boiler out of all of its water, you just lift the tab upright so that it's facing vertical. All the time that it's laying down flat like that, any water that runs to the boiler will stay inside of it, and it will allow you to use the hot water and get the water coming through the hot side of the tap. So leave that as it is until you want to drain the boiler out. And also, just briefly, the reason that you would actually want to drain the boiler out is if you're going to be winterizing the van. So if you're leaving the van over winter, you will definitely want to make sure that you drain the boiler out with that little drain tab. Whilst we're here as well, you've got a little red dial just here, which is your gas isolator for the boiler. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from the boiler specifically, then you can do that from there. And that's about it, really. So nice bit of storage in there, and I just thought I'd show you there's a couple of bits over in the corner. So because, oh, actually, before I carry on, sorry, just underneath here is your wastewater drain off point. So if you want to drain out your waste tank, you've got a little drain tap just here. So grey waste on this side is your waste, and I believe the fresh is on the other side. So at the back of the van, we've got your 2-bike rack, tow bar just here. Now I will say as well, with the tow bar, it's one of those things that even if you're not going to use it, it's a nice thing to have, purely for the fact that tow bars for motorhomes are not easy to get a hold of or fit. So having one there is a good selling point for the future. So yeah, just thought I'd point that out. What I was going to say a minute ago was that the boiler, because it sits just inside here, the vent for the boiler is this one just here. Okay, now you have got a winter cover or a winter vent for this, and quite literally all you need to do is first of all make sure that you take this vent off, and then I'll show you how to use it on the inside obviously, but same as the fridge, if you wanted to double check that it's definitely working, you can put your hand either side just here and you will feel hot air coming out through that. Okay, so it's really simple to use and very, very simple to check that it's definitely on. So on the off side of the van, again, we've got the windows all the way around, all in good condition. Can't fault those at all. First locker we get to on the off side here is your gas locker. So there is space inside this gas locker. It is a bit tight, but there is space for 2 of these 6 kilo propane bottles. Okay, they always give you the amount of space that you need to have 2. Other than that, to be honest with you, there isn't really much else to explain. All you need to know is that you go anti-clockwise on the valve on the top to turn the bottle on, and clockwise all the way down round to the right to turn it off. Everything else, the regulator at the back there, you haven't got to do anything with that. We've got our test points on there, but you haven't got to do anything with that. And the only other thing is to bear in mind is that this is a 2022 dated pigtail hose. So you've got till 27 to replace that pigtail. You get 5 years on those. All right, so other than that, simple as. I would just recommend to turn the gas bottle off before you start driving. That is really important. The very last thing that you want if you have a crash is 30 millibars of propane pumping into various parts of the vehicle. So you really don't want that to happen. So just turn the gas bottle off from inside the locker, and that is isolating it from the outside. And the next locker we get to is another really important one, really. So this is our sort of 12 volt and mains locker. So first of all, I've got the mains cable plugged in, as you can see. And you'll notice that in the corner of this locker, you've got a little slot cut out. So that means that you can have the cable through the slot and completely close the locker and lock it. So it means that you can literally have the hookup plugged in without anybody being able to get to it. Okay, so that's where you plug your hookup cable in, and that will give you access to using any of your mains powered appliances and also any of your 3-pin 240 volt plug sockets. The leisure battery to the right just here is really easy to get out, so you just literally pull it out, undo this little strap here if you need to pull it out a bit more. But quite literally, this is your 12 volt hub, if you like. So this is where everything 12 volt gets powered from. So that's including the lights, water pump, all of that sort of stuff. Just briefly as well, when you're hooked up on the mains like we are now, you've got a mains charger which charges up this battery directly. So all the time that you're hooked up on the mains, you do not need to worry about leisure battery power or voltage, which I will show you how to check when we get inside. This is a factory fitted external TV aerial socket, which you do not need to use. That's a bit more of an old school thing. And this is probably a 12 volt socket, yeah. So, just before I carry on and show you all of this, I will just get underneath the van here and show you your freshwater drain off point. So the fresh drain is this one just here with the blue pipe and the blue valve. Okay, don't worry about the fact that it's got a red pipe on the end of it. That's just somebody's used a bit of red pipe. So to turn the drain off point for your fresh tank, you've literally just got the little blue handle, the little blue tab there to twist. Okay, and that is how you would drain out the fresh tank. So it's really, really simple. They used to, on the Autoquests like this, it used to be the fact that you have to get your arm down behind the in the wardrobe there and get to it. So I think somebody has just adjusted it a little bit, so it's a bit easier to get underneath and just twist. So yeah. So the freshwater filling point is this one up here. Okay, this is your freshwater filling point. Now the reason that I stopped when I was saying about this one here is because this is a 12 volt socket. Okay, for if, now not everybody does this, but if you've got a external submersible pump that you need to drop into a tank outside to pump water in to the fresh filling point here, then you've got a 12 volt socket here for that submersible pump. And the majority of people will just use a hose point and get it going straight into here, or like a roll-away tank or some, watering cans, whatever it might be that you've got. Normally it would just go straight into that. But if you've got a, big drag-along roll-away tank and you need to get the water from the tank into there, then you can get a submersible pump which plugs into there, sits into your water tank, and then pumps it into there. So that's what that little socket there is for. The last two lockers on the outside, or the last two things on the outside even, are your flush water, your flush fluid gets topped up through here. It is completely topped up to the very brim at the moment. And I will say that for the first couple of times of using it, you might find that it could overflow around the toilet, the top of the toilet a little bit. And that's because it has been overfilled. Okay, it doesn't really need to be all the way up to the top like that. So in the future, if you just put sort of like 2 to 5 litres in at a time, you'll stop it from getting too full up, basically. All right, but that is where you fill up your flush fluid from. And then below that, we've got the actual toilet cassette itself. A very, very simple bit of kit. This is your industry standard toilet cassette. This is a Thetford toilet cassette. So to remove the actual cassette, to drain it out, you lift up on the little yellow tab here at the bottom and pull the cassette towards you. Once you've got it to there, you should be able to take it all the way out, like so. All right, so that's how you would physically remove it. So from there, you drain it out from here. So this is your draining point. So you undo this little cap just here, and that's where you would drain it out from. When you're draining it out, you should hold down this little yellow button with your thumb, which is why you've got a little slot just there, whilst you're draining it out. That's just a little pressure release valve, basically, and it will make things a lot easier for you. So that's how you would drain it out. Once you've drained it out, 1 cap's worth, this cap here, 1 cap's worth of your blue fluid goes back inside the cassette. Give it a little swoosh around, and then make sure that you get it going in nice and flush and push it all the way back home. You'll know that it's gone back in properly when that little yellow bit goes over the lip and you hear the nice little click. And that is it. That is all of the lockers on the outside. Again, good quality and good condition on the windows. There we go. So inside the cab, you have got, I haven't got the keys on me right now, but you've got this little thing just here, which is basically an immobilizer. Okay. So all the time that little red light is flashing, the engine will not start. Okay, it just won't do anything at all. So on your keys, you've got a little thing about this long that you need to poke into that little slot just there. And as soon as that red light stops flashing, you'll be able to start it up. So that is your, proper immobilizer, physical immobilizer. Okay. On the door, you've got your electric windows and electric adjusting mirrors from just here. You have got a little reversing camera just here. I'm not sure how well it works, but we can have a little look into that for you just to make sure that it is working. Underneath the steering wheel, we have got your steering column adjustment just here and the actual bonnet release handle just here above the clutch pedal. And if I just jump in. Okay, so we've got the factory fitted stereo just there. So that's a standard single DIN Peugeot head unit. Below that, we've got your hazard lights, fog lamp, and then all of the heater controls underneath there, I very rarely actually explain because it's one of those things that you probably look at the video and think, well, I don't need to be explained that because it's pretty simple stuff. Your 5-speed manual gearbox is here, and to select reverse, you lift up on the back just here, push over and up to the top left-hand side, and that'll have you engaging in reverse. On the left-hand side of the steering wheel, we've got your lights, so dipped and main, and your indicators there as well. Your washers and wipers are on the right-hand side as usual. And I think that is about it. So, bear in mind that your handbrake is on the right-hand side just here. So please be careful of that when you're jumping out of the van. I promise you it hurts a lot if you catch yourself. So don't make that mistake like I have so many times. So I will jump on the inside of the van now and show you what we've got going on in there. So as I said on the outside of the video a minute ago, we've got the isolator just here. So if you want anything at all to work, you need to make sure that is in the on position, which is this position here, by the way. So, layout of the van. This is a typical U-shaped lounge. The beds in this particular one are quite long as well. So depending on how tall you are, you may or may not be able to use them as single beds. Some people won't be able to do purely just because of their height. But these ones are so easy to make up the bed. You just quite literally pull the centerpiece out and then use all the cushions to lay out in the middle. It takes seconds to make this bed up. So yeah, really, really popular layout. The other thing that people like about these is the fact that you can just quite literally put the bed away straight away. And then you've got a big table that sits in the middle here, and it's a really nice sociable layout. So they always have been very popular layout wise. This particular van's got 40,000 miles, so it's barely been running for what it is. And where it's on the 2.2, I believe this one's a change-driven engine as well. So, lots of nice positives about this particular van. So what I'll do is I will start showing you through. Normally what I'll do is I'll see if there's any sort of odds and sods, little, slightly different things that aren't normal to point out first, but I don't really think there is, to be honest, in this van. Well, you've got a TV aerial, which needs a booster turning on to have it working. So you've got this switch just in here. So this is your TV aerial booster, okay, which, as you can see, has got power going to it and is working. You've got these two things just here, which are winter covers for your fridge vents. Paperwork inside this black bag just here. And actually, glad I mentioned it now. So as I was mentioning on the outside, where you can have a submersible pump dropping into an external tank and pumping into the vehicle, you've actually got one here. So this is exactly what I was saying. So that little socket on the outside, this is the type of thing that needs to be plugged into it. So that'll give power to this little pump. You drop the pump into your submersible tank, and then the other side of this will start pumping the water through. So that's what you would put into the filling point which is actually just there. So if you want to have a little go with that, you can do. That's just something the previous owners left behind. So yeah, it's a nice thing for them to have left. Your jack and wheel brace kit just here. Some people put them under the passenger seat. It's up to you. And you've got your mains powered trip switches just inside here. Full-size standalone table is in here as well. So if you want to use that, then that is where that is. Oh, and the other slightly unusual thing, that is a very common for Autoquests, but you know, you might look at it and think, well, that's a bit strange. But the light switch for the bathroom is actually this button just here. All right, so just there to the right of the actual door, to the left of this one. There isn't actually a switch for the light inside here. There is a switch on the side of the actual light itself, but to actually turn them on and off from outside, it's that button there. So, yeah, I'll start running you through the control panel now, and then I will start running you through all the appliances. So the control panel is, as far as control panels go, is probably one of the most simple ones that you can have. So this is the control panel just here. Okay, now this is, well, it almost doesn't need explaining, but I will run you through the whole thing. So on the right hand side, we've got a switch that says aux at the top and vehicle at the bottom. Now these are your two options for which battery is powering the back end of the van. So you've got all of your lights, and as I said, I've said it a few times now, but this is your battery selector. So we need to be up on aux all the time that we want things to be on. The very last thing that we want to do is go down to vehicle. It's not even going to work actually. But if you went down to vehicle and had some things on, then basically the vehicle battery would start charging, would start powering things in the back end. So all the time that you want anything being powered up, so all of your lights on and all that sort of stuff, you need to be up on auxiliary. When you turn the van off and when you want to get out the vehicle and sort of lock it all up, switch it back to the middle, like so, and that turns both batteries off. For the time being, we'll leave it up on aux. We've then got all the time that you're selected on a battery. So we've got the auxiliary battery selected right now. Just me pushing that over there. If you've got the auxiliary battery selected, you can see the battery voltage. If you look at the top scale here, where it says volts and a number, you can see we're on 13 volts on the auxiliary battery. So that's a very good voltage. The reason that we're at that sort of voltage is because we've got the hookup plugged in and the charger will be working. Okay, and the last switch here is our water pump. Okay, actually, tell you what, sorry, I've missed one there. The middle one here, the water switch, if we have a little look at our bottom scale here, where it says water, press and hold the water button there, and it shows you roughly how much water is in the tank. So we're nearly empty on the fresh tank. Okay, the last one here, the water pump switch, is basically up for off, down for on. You've got what's called a submersible water pump in this van. So essentially what I mean by that is that when you turn the water pump switch on, the pump will not start running straight away. Because you've got a submersible pump, the pump will only run if you've got the tap in the open position. So the taps in the van, you've only got two, but the taps in the van have got little switches inside the heads, which turn the tap on and off, the pump on and off, sorry. So as I said, when you turn the switch on the control panel, all it does is turn on the switches inside the taps. So the pump will only run when you open the tap up, like that. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It's not really something that you necessarily need to know about, but I just thought I'd point out to you, you know, some motorhomes you'll find that when you turn the water pump switch on, the pump will run on for a few seconds to get to pressure, but that's because that's a inline pump that works on pressure. These pumps don't work on pressure, they work on power from the switch. Okay, so staying on that topic of water, it's really important that you understand the hot and cold water systems of a motorhome. So the cold side of the system is very simple. So you've quite literally got the water tank, which sits down here. So that's your fresh water tank, And when you draw the water through on the cold side of the system, which is to the right, so like this, yeah, so tap to the right, drawing it through, what's happening is that the water pump is drawing it straight from the tank and then going straight to the tap. Whether it's this tap or the one in the bathroom, it's the same. Just comes straight from the tank to the tap. The difference with the hot side, so if I turn it to the left now and draw the water through like that, the difference now is that the water has to run through the boiler first before it gets to the tap. So what's happening is it's drawing it from the tank through the boiler and then it's coming to the tap. Now you might be thinking, why the hell are you telling me about that? The reason that you need to know that is because if the boiler isn't full of water, you will not get water coming through the tap on the hot side. Okay? Or in other words, if that little yellow tab is upright and you try and draw water through the hot side of the tap, I absolutely promise you, you won't get any water coming through. It will come through for a few seconds and then it will stop. Okay? So, again, the reason that's so important is because if you actually want to use the boiler, you have to make sure and double check that you've actually got water inside of the boiler to start with. If you try and light the boiler up with no water in it, you will almost definitely break it and have to fork out for another one, which you do not want to do. So the only way, there's no gauge or level indicator on the boiler, the only way to check that the boiler is full of water and that you're ready to use it is just literally by checking that the water's coming through on the hot side of the tap. So even if, I mean, the boiler is about 10 litres in size, okay, of water. Even if the boiler's got 9 litres of water in it, it's not quite full to the top, what you'll see is that you'll draw the water through. It'll come through for a few seconds, and then it will kind of cough and splutter at you for a couple of seconds, just whilst it fills up that boiler right to the very top. And then as soon as that boiler's full to the very brim, it will come out nice and clearly like this. Okay, so as long as the water's coming through nice and clear, as you just saw there, then, you're good to go and you can use the boiler however you want to. Okay, but that's a really important thing to sort of remember, the fact that the only way to check it is by actually checking that the water's coming through on the hot side of the tap. Okay, in an ideal world, they would invent some kind of little gauge that you can just go, oh, that's how much water's in the boiler, and then you'd be good to go. But is it always good practice to just make sure that you've got water coming through the hot side of the tap? And actually I do both. I do cold and hot, just to get rid of any air that might be in either side. But yeah, all right, so once you've done that, once you have checked that the water's in the boiler, you've then got, sorry, I'm in the wrong place, you've got these two dials down here which are how to actually use the boiler. So because this is a typical British built vehicle, you have got the option on nearly everything to use it on gas or electric. Okay, so at the bottom, this switch just here is how we would use the boiler on the electric. So if we're hooked up on the mains and we turn that button on just there, the water inside the boiler will start warming up. Okay, and it will stop at about 70 degrees, so it gets really nice and hot. All right, so that will only work, as I said, when your hookup cable is plugged in, and it will just start getting the water hot straight away. The one above it is how you would use it on the gas. So it's just as simple. All you need to do is twist it once to the right. You'll get a little green light come on, and you wouldn't have heard it on the video, but I just heard it light straight up, and that's it. So the only other thing you need to know is that you've got a temperature dial in the center. So you've got 30 all the way through to 70, and that is just the temperature that you can get the water to. If you set that temperature to like 30 or 40, or actually any number, what it will do is it will get to that temperature and then just turn itself on and off as and when it needs to. So you can leave it on for a prolonged period of time if you want to, but I would recommend that it's good practice to turn it off when you're not using it. It's just pointless to leave it on because it takes about half an hour or so to get the water hot. So, you don't want to leave it on all day just because you want to shower in the evening, if that makes sense. So half an hour before you need the hot water, switch it on, and you'll be good to go. So there are your two options down there for the hot water. So the next thing I'll show you is the heating. So again, as I said a minute ago, because it's a British built van, you have got the option of gas or electric on this one. So when it comes to the heating on electric, you've got these two switches up here. Okay, these are both to do the electricity on the heating. Now this switch on the left hand side is quite literally just an isolator for this dial. So if you want to use the heating on electric, turn this switch on here and then do what I'm going to show you now on this dial. In other words, this dial will not do anything at all if this switch here isn't on. Okay, so if you want to use the heating on electric, turn the switch on just there, and then you have got the option of 500, 1000 or 2000 watts. Now these are all different power voltages, or power levels, sorry, which all equate to a certain amount of amps. So watts aren't really that important, amps are the important ones. So the reason I'm mentioning that, without trying to bore you too much with it, is that if you're on a campsite and you say plug into the hookup post that you're given, they should tell you how many amps that post is. Now normally they're 13 amps, just like a normal household socket or whatever, but you can sometimes find that you'll be on a 10 amp post or even a 16 amp post. Depends exactly where you are. So the reason I'm telling you that is if you're using the heating on 2000 watts, that equates to about 8 amps. Okay, so if you think about it, if you stick that on 2000, I'll do that now. Stick it on 2000. We're currently drawing 8 amps from that. We'll also have about half an amp or so from the charger. So we've got 8.5 amps. So let's just say we're plugged into a 10 amp post. We've now only got 1.5 amps to use before that post on the outside will trip. Okay, so if you overload, if you go over the amount of power that you're plugged into, it will trip the post on the outside. Right? So again, the reason I'm telling you that, it's not the end of the world if that does happen. You just literally turn things off and then go and turn it back on. But I would say that the 2000 option on the Ultra Heats is a little bit excessive, in my opinion. So I would leave it on 500 or 1000 if you are going to use it on the electric, which is either 2 or 4 amps. Okay, just to point that out, you know, if you have the fridge on, that's an amp. If you've got that on at 2000, that's 8 amps. So you're pretty quickly running up to your maximum level. So if you plugged anything else into this 3-pin socket, you know, like an appliance, whatever it might be, a telly or whatever, you're going to go over pretty quickly. Okay, so that's how you would use the heating on the mains. You quite literally got your switch there, choose your 500, 1000 or 2000, and then you've got a little temperature gauge in the middle. Okay, so this is your electric option for the heating. You've also got the standard way of using the heating, which is the gas option. So this is a Truma Ultra Heat heater, and the electric buttons up there do just literally heat this up here. So this is the heating just here. Okay, there's no separate thing for that. So if you want to use the heating on the gas, what you have is a piezo ignition, okay, and a gas valve just here. So what I'm going to do, like you've just seen there, I've turned the gas valve around to about 2 or 3, and a bit awkward with one hand, but what I'll do is I'll press the button in whilst pressing on the ignition. And if you watch down here in this little peephole, so you saw there, first go, it lit straight up. Now, what you can see is that we've got the flame lit up on the right-hand side of our little peephole there. So it's sort of flickering a little bit, getting nice and hot. And I'm just holding this on because it's quite a cold day today. So I want to make sure that our thermocouple gets nice and hot. So this is our pilot flame. Okay. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift up on our little valve just here and then twist it around to about 7 or 8. So if we watch what happens when I lift up and twist it around, you probably noticed the main flame kicked in and it's now just coughing a little bit just to get it going properly. It's just warming up that thermocouple. Now this is a good example, okay? So because it's quite cold, it is struggling to stay on. So what I'm going to do in this situation is I'm going to just push back down again. Even if you're up here on 8, push back down on the gas valve. And that just gets that pilot flame coming back on nice and gently. So the only reason that was happening, you know, sort of fluttering a little bit, is because I didn't get the pilot warm enough before I let go. So I'm just leaving that on for a little bit longer. And now I'm going to let go of it again. Hopefully. There you go. So you can see that main flame's kicked in now. It's not coughing and sputtering anymore. Staying on nice and gently. And that is it. That's how you would light the gas system up, and that will start warming up. Now, that's how you would use it on the gas, okay? You've got the option of the gas or the mains. Doesn't matter which one you use, but you have also got the option of the fan. So the fan will pump the air around to any of these little circular vents. I think it's just that one and then one in the bathroom. But basically, if you want to turn the fan on, push this little button here to the left and then choose your number. All right, so you've got 1 through to 5, and that will basically just start pumping around the warm air through to the vents. Now, I would recommend, because you've got that option, I would always recommend using that little dial there for the fan. Now, the reason that I say that is because these heaters get so unbelievably hot that sometimes if you don't use the fan, you'll find that all of the sort of wood and the Fablon around it will start melting and sort of moving a little bit. So having that fan option just sort of dissipates that heat a little bit more evenly and stops that from happening. I would also say that when you turn the heater off, that you leave the fan running for a good 5 minutes after you turn the heater off. Now again, it's a similar sort of reason, but when you turn the heaters off, for some reason, they get even hotter for a few minutes when you turn them off. So allowing that to, again, dissipate nice and evenly is really helpful just by leaving the fan on for a little, couple of minutes. Okay, so that is the heating on gas or electric. We have also got your cooker system here. Now you will need an ignition of some sort, like a lighter or something, a long reach lighter. We do have them here in the shop, but you will need an ignition of some sort to light anything on this up. So this isn't basically out of the factory. This just came with no ignition. Okay, so ignition will be needed for any of these. 4-burner hob, you've quite literally got top left, bottom right and top right. You've then got a grill and oven, which are, to be honest, I very rarely explain this because it's just self-explanatory. Same as a household cooker. Only thing I would say, the only difference really is the fact that you've got the glass lid. Now this is something that is quite common to break. Okay, so I know that these glass lids are made to get hot, and obviously glass can get very, very hot without breaking. But the issue is that when people put these glass lids down, straight after cooking, yes, the glass itself is fine to get really hot, but the issue is that when it's hot underneath and cold on top, that's when glass shatters, when it's cold on one side and hot on the other. So unfortunately, when you've been using the grill, so it's, again, another thing, really important that you have to make sure that the grill, the glass is open when you're using the grill, because this little bit in the middle here is the exhaust, or where the grill is. There's a big hole there, the grill's right below it. So if you have the grill on with the glass down, I promise you it will shatter the glass. So long story short, make sure that you allow all of this to cool down a little bit before you put the glass lid back down, if possible. Okay. So for the sink, by the way, you've got a little cover for that just here, which allows you a little bit more worktop space. So that goes in here like so. Okay. You've also got a nice little cutlery drawer that comes out like that. And then the fridge is below that. So the fridge is the last appliance that I need to run you through. So when it comes to the fridge, I need to fix this little bit on the top, which I'll do in a minute. The fridge is, this is an industry standard Dometic fridge. Okay. Down here will be a little sticker telling you exactly what the fridge is. So that's an RM7270. Only reason I say that is just for, obviously we can help with anything at all, but if you ever need any parts for it, then that is the part number that you'll need. So this is your standard 3-way fridge, and what I mean by 3-way is that you've got 3 different options to get the fridge cold. Okay, so really important that you understand that only 2 of these options will actually get the fridge cold from warm. Okay, that might sound really stupid, but the 240 volt or the 230 volt that it says there, the mains electric this is, and the gas are the only 2 ways that this fridge will actually get cold from warm. Okay, so earlier on before the video when I came out to the van to turn this on, the only 2 options that I have are the gas or the mains. Okay, the 12 volt option here is only for when your engine is running, and it's only there for holding the temperature inside the fridge whilst you're on the move, whilst you're driving. It is not powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself by leaving the engine running for half an hour. If you do that, if you start the engine up, put it on 12 volt and leave it for half an hour, it might get a little bit cold, but it will not get properly cold. Okay, so basically, if you're going to go away, you know, let's just say you're going away tomorrow morning, either the 240 volt or the gas, at least 3 or 4 hours before you leave, you need to switch it on either one of those 2. Okay, so I would recommend, if you can, in an ideal world, you'll have the hookup cable plugged into the van the night before you go, and you'll be able to literally leave it on the 240 volt there overnight, and then just switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving. That's the ideal world. Not everybody has a driveway that you can leave the van on and have it hooked up. So alternative is either leave it on the gas overnight, which is perfectly safe, you're fine to do that, or go out a few hours before you go, switch it on the gas, and then just switch it over to 12 volt, same again, before you start driving. Okay, so to light it up on the gas, to actually get the gas to come on, so with the mains, you just quite literally just choose that one there and it will start cooling down, and the same with the 12 volt, that will just start working as soon as you start the engine up. The gas is slightly different. You've got a little peephole down here which is already starting to frost over a little bit, so that is a very good burner that you've got. So to use the gas, we switch it down onto the gas option, and then a lot like the heater, we've got the piezo ignition and the gas valve. So same again, push in on the gas valve whilst pressing on your piezo igniter, and if you watch down there, you saw straight away, nice blue flame come straight on. Now again, just like the heater, I'm holding this on just for a few seconds to warm the thermocouple up before I let go of it. So it just needs a little bit longer to warm up properly. Well, I'm not going to show you it for the whole time, but basically you press and hold on it until until when you let go of the button, the gas flame stays on. Yeah, so it's as simple as that, basically. All right, so that's just me turning it off. So once you finish with the fridge, make sure that you go back up to the top there to the off button, or the off option, sorry, and that'll then be the fridge completely off. As I said, I do need to just fix this little lock up here because that hasn't been picked up, but I will do that now. So the last thing that I need to show you is going to be the bathroom. Now there's not really much for me to show you in here, I probably don't need to, but I will show you what we got. So I have just replaced this shower tap. Okay, so the actual shower itself, the tap was knackered, to be honest, it was no good. So if I poke this all the way back in, much easier with 2 hands, but there we go. Poke it all the way back in, and that is how you would use it, just as the sink. And then, as I said, same, opposite way around, get it to go back up there for the shower. So, simple as that with that one. The toilet is normally the only part that I need to explain because you may or may not have actually used one of these before. So to get the flush fluid pumping around, just nice and gently push down on this here. It will make its way around the bowl of the toilet. Okay, so that's how you get the flush fluid pumping around into the actual cassette. And then to drain whatever's inside the bowl here into the cassette, pull this handle here to the right, and it will drain everything into the actual cassette. Okay, so really simple. And then make sure that you push this little handle back to the left again. If you don't put that handle back to where it was, you will find that you won't be able to take the cassette out from outside. It will be locked in position. So all the time that flap is open, the cassette is locked. Okay, but that is about it really. So I know it's been quite a long video, but because it's a British built van, you have got lots of things to show on the vehicle. So hopefully I've shown everything. If there is anything you want me to go over again, just give us a shout, and I will do anything I can to sort of help out. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.